Oh boy. So how have the last couple of days been for you?
No.
Sorry.
I'm gonna kill myself!
Let's talk about the reaction to the Switch 2. So what is up, YouTube? My name is Mario, aka the Loot Box Hero. Check out the second channel, the second channel is popping, aka the real Super Mario, aka YouTube's greatest fat man here, bringing you another video. Alright, so we are going to be talking about what's going on with the Switch 2. Now, this is a series I like to call Tears of the Haters, where basically I take the reactions to a video game or studio or announcement or whatever, and I react to those reactions, and I explain why I explain what's going on with it, why it's happening, and then I react to stuff on Twitter and make fun of it and have fun with it. That's basically what we do on this little series here. Last time I did this was for Tears of the Kingdom. That's why it's called Tears of the Haters, because it just kind of worked out. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to check out those, you can check those ones out. But I'm going to explain what's going on with the Switch 2 pricing and why people are so mad about it. So, of course, you want to continue getting videos like that from me, like this from me. Like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell button, do all that good stuff that YouTube requires you to continue getting more videos from me, because YouTube algorithm is apparently just murdering my channels. So, it is what it is. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, you know what to do. So, let's get on into this, right? So, what's going on with the Switch 2? Well, after the Switch 2's launch, Nintendo kind of announced several things that kind of pissed on the hype that everybody had for the system. They announced that the price of the system was going to be 2 SKUs, $450 for the system itself, and $500 for the system plus Mario Kart. And I kind of expected this, mainly because I've been saying for like a year now that $450 is the sweet spot for the system, because if they went below $400, then that shows that they don't have faith in the system. All right, that means they're competitively pricing the system and that they don't have faith in it. All right, because if you're competitively pricing your product, that means that your product can't stack up to the competition without being cheaper than it. All right. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention, to a consumer, that shows that, okay, well, this system is that cheap, then it can't be that powerful. All right, that's what happens when you have like really cheap tech. You know what I'm saying? Look at the Xbox Series S versus the Series X. All right, the Series S was priced the way it was to try to get people's foot in the door with Xbox, if they, just in case they didn't want to or couldn't spend all the money on the Series X. All right, but the Series S is significantly weaker than the X. That's basically what's going on. So Nintendo priced it at $450 because it shows confidence in the system from a technical perspective. So that shows confidence to the investors that, okay, well, Nintendo, they're not being too competitive with this price, so they're confident that people will buy it. And it shows to the consumer, or at least the more learned consumers, that oh well, there's some horsepower in here. This is going to be significantly more powerful than the Switch, which is what they needed to do. Now the big thing that I think most, at least good faith arguments about this, were mad about was the price of the games. Now, people have been talking about the price increases for video games for about a year and some change now. I believe last year there was this weird announcement, a weird rumor going on Twitter that GTA 6 was going to be $100, and people have been kind of like reacting over to that for years now. And so now that Nintendo has upped the price of games to $80, yeah, it looks like we're getting much closer to that $100 price tag per game. But the thing is, the thing you have to realize is there are two big things that go into why this is happening. One, I will explain a little bit later, but one of the main reasons is the price of making games. The price of making games has gone up significantly over the years, okay? Like, I believe some people were saying that the price of, like, Spider-Man was, like, $300-400 million, okay? All right, the price of Call of Duty Cold War, $700 million. That is almost $750 million to make a video game. Putting that in perspective, most Marvel movies cost between 180 to 250 million dollars. All right, Call of Duty Cold War cost almost 3 Marvel movies. That's crazy. All right, that means that the entire trilogy of a Marvel movie, like look at like the Ant-Man trilogy or the Captain America trilogy. Okay, that is the price of one video game. Okay, so of course the price of video games have to go up. Now the only way you can keep this from happening is one of 2 ways, or one of 3 ways, to be honest. One way would be to find alternate ways to make money outside of the base price of the game. So you sell the game for $70, but then you have like a battle pass that people can buy, that you can make additional money, so that this way you can afford to sell the game at a possible loss, or to make up that $300-400 million quicker, so you can get to the green. You know, or you sell DLC, or you sell microtransactions, loot boxes, all that stuff that people hate. You know, the second way would be to reduce the cost of making games, so reduce the quality of games, which they've done that already because games already come out like garbage now. They do, you know what I'm saying? But this is partially because they rush games, because the longer they take to make games, the more expensive they're going to be. But when I mean reduce the quality, they have to aim lower. All right, so we can't have as many like hyper realistic, like cinematic looking games. You have to aim a little bit lower so that things can be cheaper. All right, you know what I'm saying? Move away from the 4K HDR God rays Uber 35,000 teraflop blah blah blah. You had to move away from all that and make games just, you know, just aim a little bit lower. People don't want to do that because whenever you have a game that doesn't look like it's running 35,000 teraflops, then people talk about that game. So the only other way to reduce the cost of making games, to keep games at $60 to $70, would be to reduce the cost of labor in making video games. Okay, well, it's possible. You could do that. But people really hate this because usually that means you have to fire people or you have to pay them less. And this hasn't really worked so far. All right, like probably like 10,000 or so people have been fired from the game industry over the last 18 months. All right, which is a huge contraction of the workforce of the gaming industry. All right, I don't think it's ever been this bad as far as like in the modern era of video games. And obviously, it's not really working. So if none of this stuff works, the only recourse would be to increase the cost of making games. And the thing is, this falls on Nintendo even more because Nintendo hasn't done the things that other companies have done. They haven't fired people, they haven't cut their pay, they haven't decreased the quality of their games, unless you're talking about Pokemon. So yeah, I mean, Nintendo hasn't done these things. So the only thing Nintendo could do is increase the price of selling games, because you can't make the games better, make the technology better, and keep your workforce and add to your workforce so that you can continue to make the games better, but also sell the games at $60. You can't do both. You're either going to have better Nintendo games, or we're going to be playing games that look like Scarlet and Violet and Tears of the Kingdom for the next 10 years because you want the game to be at $60. Like, it doesn't work. The other reason why games are so expensive is more international reasons. So this is where things get a little bit political. Tariffs. So this is where things get a little bit political, and I take you into a little bit more of a civics, econ type of lesson, right? So let's say you have 2 countries. You have country A and country B. Country A is a huge country, big population, big economy, big manufacturing base. Country B, smaller country, smaller economy, smaller population, smaller manufacturing base. Tariffs are protective measures, protective taxes that countries use to make money, but also to protect local markets from more powerful markets flooding them with goods, right? So let's say one tariff would be like an overall trade tariff that country B will put on country A, because country A has a much larger economy than it. And a much larger economy means that its goods are cheaper because they can make more of them. So if they flood their goods into country B, they basically kill country B's markets, and that's it. GG's, you just screwed your economy. And now all your people are buying cheap goods from other countries. So that's why they would have a blanket tariff on country A. Country A doesn't necessarily need to tariff country B because country B's economy is smaller and it's not really a threat to country A. But let's say country B is a world producer, a world leading producer in avocados. All right, because let's say it's like equatorial or something, right? Okay, so country B is equatorial country, and they produce like a booty load of avocados. They can outproduce country A in avocados in multiples, just multiple times more avocados can be produced in country B than in country A. So then country A would not put a blanket tariff on country B. They would tariff the avocado sector of country B. All right, yes, I'm talking about avocados in the Nintendo video, but bear with me here. So now what's going on now is the country A is doing what country B was doing the whole time. They're putting a blanket tariff on country B, even though they don't necessarily need to, mainly because of trade deficits. Trade deficits exist anyway, all right? Especially when you have the largest economy on the planet. So there's no real need to fix them because they don't hurt you like they would hurt country B. So now that country A is doing a blanket tariffs, not just on the avocados, but on everything that country B is doing, country B does reactionary tariffs against country A. Thus, country A does even more tariffs against country B, and now we're in a trade war. So this takes up the price of every good that goes between these countries. And that's what's happening. All right. Country, Japan is selling products manufactured in, in Vietnam. There's a 46% tariff on that. So 46% of the price of that product has to be paid in tariffs in order to sell it in America, which is probably why they delayed the pre-orders for the Switch 2, because we're probably going to get a price hike. That's what's happening when it comes to this whole thing. Now, you know what I'm saying? If you're still here, that's the reason why things cost so much, because the software is made in Japan. So it's going through the Japan tariffs, and the hardware is made by Japan but made in Vietnam, which means it goes through the Vietnamese tariffs, which are just blanket tariffs that America has on basically the world at this point. Is what it is, man. So let's lighten this up and react to the reaction from Twitter, because it's getting more depressing as I continue to talk about this. I need to ridicule people in order to make myself feel better. Let me guess, 30 frames per second isn't an issue, right? It never was. I just realized we're getting $70 to $90 Pokemon games with Game Freak still on their usual BS.
Gay ass nigga, shut up. Oh, I ain't listening to you.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Sure, the graphics is great, and it's definitely an upgrade, but full price of the same game? According to Nintendo's website, players who already own a game and want to upgrade it can expect to pay between 1,000 to 2,000 yen, which is estimated to equate to $10 to $15.
You a dummy.
Lower the cost.
No.
Or just buy a Steam Deck for $50 less. I mean, you could, but the main reason why people buy Nintendo consoles is not necessarily for the console itself. They buy it for the games, all right? The console is just like a thing you play the games on. Like, the features of the console matter, but at this point, I mean, it's not that big of a deal. People buy consoles for those specific games. This is why I say that, Xbox is killing itself, because, there's no reason to buy an Xbox when you can play Xbox games on anything. You can only play Nintendo games on Nintendo consoles. So you could just buy a Steam Deck, but then you can't play the games you want to play because you bought the Steam Deck. That's the point. Nintendo for setting the precedent of $80 video games. You just screwed over every gamer, not just Nintendo fans. Fuck you.
This fat son of a bitch.
Boy, man, I see Boogie has taken to his new profession. You know what I'm saying? So he's gone from faking cancer to faking outrage. Guess faking outrage was easier.
He's fat.
The Nintendo Switch 2 battery will only last between 2 to 6 hours, half of the original. This statement is incorrect and misleading. The original Switch had battery life 2.5 to 6.5 hours. The original Switch battery will last the same amount as the Switch 2, not half.
You're a liar, and you will spend an eternity on this shit.
You gotta love freaking community notes. You can say what you want about Elon and his political antics. You gotta love community note. The Nintendo community is insane for defending rising prices. Nintendo has done this to clearly start normalizing the bad price increase and use market factors as cover.
You smell like a ball sack.
This take is like insane. But the fact of the matter is, no, they're not using like market factors as cover for increasing the price of games. Market factors dictate the price of products. That's what happens. If the market is crazy and fluctuating, then the product is going to fluctuate too. If you don't change your product pricing to fit the market value, you're going to lose money. Like, this is how companies die. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you can weather the storm, but if that storm means that you're gonna have to make a $500 million video game and sell it for the price of a $200 million video game, you are going to go out of business. That is dumb, okay? But it is what it is, though. You know what I'm saying? Nobody really thinks when it comes to these takes that they have on the internet. They just pull the crustiest, corniest take from their butthole and then smear it upon the internet for all to see, you know. But that's about it. All right, tell me what you think in the comments down below. Tell me if you think Mario, you're just insane. You know, you're just a Nintendo shill. Tell me in the comments. All right, you know what I'm saying? It's fun. It's fun to see the conversations happen. So that's about it. Like, comment, subscribe, and as always, people, keep it real.